All right, we are live on Zoom. Hat-Trick Sports Talk back again on Zoom. Shane is with me today. Brandon might be joining us a little bit later in the show. Shane, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, just hanging in there through the quarantine,
Yeah,
trying to keep myself busy.
yeah. I think we're all just kind of trying to keep ourselves busy with a bunch of different things. We have a lot of news to cover though, this week as we've had for
Yeah,
the last couple weeks. Let's
at least
first
there's been
start.
no shortage of sports news.
Oh, absolutely. Not in the NFL. I got some NBA stuff here as well.
Yeah,
We have a lot to get to today. So, first, Bears GM Ryan Pace, excuse me, said there'd be an open quarterback competition between Nick Foles and Mitchell Trubisky, if and when we have training camps or OTAs, or maybe even at the start of the regular season. Simple question for you, Shane. Who starts more games in 2020, assuming we have a full season? Who starts more games for the Bears in 2020? Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky?
if you base it off of their trajectory, like last year or the last couple of years, how they've kept this faith in Trubisky for whatever reason, I would say him. But realistically, I think they should go with Foles because of the giant contract.
Right.
So make him worth his while. Um, but ultimately, I think because they were really defending Trubisky like at the end of this
Yeah.
last season. So I don't. So I think it's weird that they bring in this guy with for a lot of money. I don't think they would do that just for him to sit on the bench. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if it was any other situation, like if they got him out of free agency and are paying him like a couple of million, then it would be, you know, maybe a different story. But yeah, no, I think Foles is, at least at the beginning of the season, the guy that you're gonna see more of.
Yeah. I mean, I look at this, and on top of this whole thing between what Trubisky and Foles, what's going to happen there, they have the they have the option. Remember, they have that 5th year option with Trubisky
Yeah,
next year because he was a first round pick. And then I don't think if you're the Bears, you want to accept that option unless we see something drastic in
yeah,
2020. And I
I
don't
wouldn't.
think we're going to see that. So I think more than likely they're just going to stick with Foles for the time being, and then we're going to figure out what's going to happen from that point.
Yeah,
But
I
I,
just it still makes me laugh that they picked Trubisky over Mahomes.
yeah, I mean, look, Mahomes. So let's look back at that draft as well, because I think people have to realize the situation that was going on. Because
Oh
if
no,
on my board in that draft, my top quarterback was Deshaun Watson,
yeah, obviously.
and I mean, I think if they're and I've been looking at a lot of these redrafts because NFL.com's been doing them. I think the biggest thing that people need to realize is, and we've talked about this with prospects before, we can kind of get into it a little bit more, but with Mahomes, the reality of the situation was when he got drafted by the Chiefs, you're like, oh yeah, he could be a star because
Hmm.
of what Andy Reid likes in quarterbacks. Remember what we talked about coming into the draft with Mahomes? It was like, okay, this kid's got a strong arm, good mobility, but he needs the right fit. And the
Yeah.
Chiefs were the right fit. If he went to any other team, I think we'd be looking at him much differently.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and the other thing too is I meant I still think it's funny that they drafted Trubisky instead because you look back on it now, knowing how successful
Knowing what it
Mahomes has
was.
become, and there's probably a lot of people in that locker room that are like, okay, so we should have, you
I
know,
mean, the reality of the situation is that if you were to redraft it, the Browns would take Mahomes number one because
yeah,
if you look at where we're at, like at that time, I think any team in the top 10 or I guess top 9 probably would have said, unless they really don't need a quarterback. So I don't remember the entire order, but there would have been a good run on quarterbacks. I think the biggest thing with the Bears looking at Trubisky was the trade. to trade up from 3 to 2. What was the
Right.
likelihood that the Niners were going to take Trubisky at 2? I don't think there was one.
Hmm.
They got what, 2 second-round picks the Niners did out of that. So I think that's the biggest. Oh my God, we made a mistake. We could have just taken Trubisky. I think the biggest mistake they made was going, we could have just drafted him at 3.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the biggest thing.
Well, anyways,
All
it's
right.
all said and done now.
Yeah. Ian Rappaport said that Jadeveon Clowney is more than willing to wait to sign. So I understand the whole, his core injury and all those pieces. But I think when you look at the defensive line market over the past, 5 years, maybe more than that, it's
Yeah.
such a weird market from a general manager perspective. Because let's go back to the Ndamukong Suh Dolphins contract. What was that, 2014, right? Huge
I believe so, yeah.
huge money contract, a little bit ridiculous considering the situation the Dolphins were in at the time. That didn't really pan out. And then you go, what is that, 2017, 2018 with the Khalil Mack thing, right? And everyone was
Right.
like, oh, why are the Raiders not paying Khalil Mack? Why are they considering trading him? Then you can even go to the Texans last year with Clowney deciding, okay, we're good. We don't want to pay him. Let's trade him to the Seahawks under the franchise tag. I don't understand the whole thing with the GMs of like, okay, we'll have a guy on a rookie deal, we'll let him play out the rookie deal, and then we're ready to sign a contract. We're just going to move him. Because if we're thinking logically, what are the 3 most important positions, or somewhat positions in the NFL? You have quarterback, you have the offensive
Offensive line,
line, and
defensive line.
defensive line.
Yeah.
So why are you telling me that Khalil Mack isn't worth the money that he's making right now? Are you telling me that, let's even say, Aaron Donald is not worth the money that he's making right now? Clowney, the money that he's probably gonna make, even though it might be a little bit less than 20 mil. Do you see
Well,
what I'm saying?
he was asking for 22, and I personally don't think he's worth that much. I'll just be honest. I don't.
It was like 22, then he went down to 20. I think 20 is a reasonable price tag. Now it's down to what, 16, 17?
Yeah.
But I don't see why a team, I understand the whole core injury and I get the situation that we are in. But if we're looking at this realistically, I think it's become a trend in the NFL for these GMs going, okay, we don't want to pay defensive linemen this big bag. Even
Hmm.
though if you look at a bunch of teams, even like Seattle that has cap room, it makes absolutely no sense to not pay him $20 million regardless of the core injury or not.
Well, because I mean, yeah, they have this cap room, but you can't just spend all at once. I mean, they signed Russell on the big contract. I think it was last year, and so
Right.
they can't. I mean, because Clowney's just one piece of a defensive line that they really need to build, and the defense in general that they need to improve. Outside of the linebackers, I would say, but because it's. I mean, yeah, he had the core injury last year, but he didn't. Despite that, I mean, to me, he didn't show that he was worth 20 million. To me, I think about 16 to 18 is what I would pay him probably. But then that means that other teams are going to want to take him, like Tennessee or New York are now interested. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
I just don't know I'm just so confused by his market because I think if you're any NFL team with cap room, why would you not jump on him and say,
Right.
okay, here's 20 million, let's get the paperwork done, let's go.
Yeah.
There's no reason to not do it considering what he could be. Yes, he wasn't amazing last year, but Seattle at a time last year was number 1 in instant pressure, and a huge reason was Clowney. Sometimes
Yeah.
with defensive linemen, the biggest thing is that they disrupt the quarterback, not the fact that, oh yeah, they are, I don't know. It's just not that they just get sacks all the time, I should say.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
It's
not that you have to, but I mean, you got to get pressure on the quarterback. Obviously, that's the biggest thing I would say, because that's a lot more likely than getting sacks or getting quarterback hits or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but he didn't really. I mean, if you watch their defensive line last year, they didn't have really any pass rush at all.
But if you look at that totality of that pass rush, who was the best player on that pass rush regardless?
Well, Clowney, of course.
Yeah, and I'm willing to say that last year was a little bit of an anomaly, and
Yeah.
teams shouldn't necessarily look at that to just. I personally I justify 20 million if I'm an organization with cap. I justify.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you have as much as Seattle does, but yeah, it'll be. I mean, he's probably wherever he ends up. There probably isn't going to be a deal done until August, probably
Yeah,
at this
probably
point.
at this point, yeah, for sure.
So
All right, so this just came out a couple minutes ago, actually. Uh, so Bill O'Brien said that DeAndre Hopkins wanted a raise, and the Texans didn't want to give him the raise. But they also said that Bill O'Brien also said that the Arizona deal was the best deal, and that it was in the best interest of the team to make that deal. Now, when you talk to many GMs in the league, based on what I've been hearing from reports, they are baffled by the trade as much as we are. Because they're like, this is ridiculous. He's not worth David Johnson in the second round pick. He's worth a couple of first. Let's be real. So
and David Johnson.
I don't even like that David Johnson was put in there. But I don't see why the Texans can justify, oh, this was the best deal we could have made. I bet you the market was better if they looked around more.
Oh, it absolutely would have been. Yeah, I still don't. I still don't know what where the logic is behind this on Houston's end.
Why are they trying to justify it though? Even like, what's the point? You might
because
as
they
well
know
just
they
say.
messed up.
I think they kind of realized that looking at not only us in the media, but looking at the other GMs around the league and executives saying this is ridiculous. I think we could have.
Yeah.
If you're a GM, you easily probably would have said, "Oh yeah, well we can put in 2 first-round picks." They just maybe didn't call us and ask.
Right.
It doesn't. I don't know if that's the case. It probably isn't. But the fact that that was the best deal out of all of the other 30, I guess 30 teams,
I'm not buying it.
Cardinals or the Texans, it's a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
A team that is seeking a first-round pick, though, is the Jaguars for Yannick Ngakoue, who's currently under the franchise tag. Here's another defensive lineman. And I guess when you look at the Jags, they are in a position where they want to rebuild somewhat. And I guess moving Yannick Ngakoue is that next step.
Yeah.
First-round picks or multiple first-round picks for him would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I would say so. Let's see. So far, he's been linked to Eagles, Seahawks, Packers, and Jets.
Good amount of teams. Pretty. I think they all could use him to come up another level for sure.
Yeah, and yeah, all 4 of them could. Where do you think he fits best of all of those?
Man, I like all of those fits. The Jets are really good at developing defensive linemen.
Yeah.
They're not really great at keeping them with Leonard Williams. I still don't get that trade. But I think the Jets are a fun team because they really love their defensive lineman group.
I think they're on the rise.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Seahawks, I think this could be interesting for Seattle, right? Because if you lose out on on Jadeveon Clowney, you're going to say, okay, here's Yannick Ngakoue, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get them both at 20 mil, maybe more, because I think Ngakoue is going to cost a little bit more. So that might be the case there. The Packers, I think, make a ton of sense because the Packers definitely, I think, still need to do more trading for top talent.
Oh yeah, because I
because
mean their defense last year showed like glimpses of being really good, but they just didn't. I feel like to me they just need that piece that is like a more experienced player that kind of um, not leads, but well maybe I don't know.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
I think in that market, right, in the Green Bay market, well, they did get free agents last year with the two Smith guys, right? But so they did get better in terms of free agency value, but I still think they should look more deeply in the trade market, especially when you have a guy like Ngakoue down there.
yeah, for sure.
And then for the Eagles, I mean, the Eagles have been making off-season moves all over their defense. This wouldn't
Oh
be
yeah,
as close of a, this wouldn't be a surprise at all. Because
right.
I think they're just trying to improve the defense as much as possible through trades and obviously free agency. And in the draft, I think you're just going to see them roll over with wide receivers and maybe even more in the offensive line, even though that's been pretty good. But
Yeah,
receiver is going to be their biggest need, and I think you're going to see them get one for sure, but maybe even two or three, considering how deep this class is.
they'll probably get two, at least in the draft.
So I really like their just entire philosophy that they're doing. And if they get a receiver, if you're an Eagles fan, you got to be pretty happy with this offseason.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it's probably a top five offseason, even at this point, if you're
Yeah,
looking at all 32 teams.
yeah. I mean, if the Eagles are, at this point, I think they're in a prime position to get 11 wins probably,
Yeah, I would say so.
as long as Wentz stays healthy, which
Right.
still
That's the
scares me.
big thing. That's the biggest thing. But if he stays
But
healthy, I mean, he proved a lot of he proved that he can, help a team with basically no talent because
oh
that's what it
yeah,
was last year. Um, but I think you have ample opportunity to get another receiver for him, and then I think it's a good shot for them to do something special in 2020, no doubt.
yeah.
We have some breaking news here.
Oh,
Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, and Kevin Garnett will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Announcement is expected on Saturday.
nice, nice.
So that's awesome. Obviously, Kobe, I think, is going to get an amazing tribute, but this is a great Hall of Fame class.
Yeah, it really is. Kobe, Tim Duncan. What was the other one?
Kevin Garnett.
Kevin Garnett.
It's a
Yeah, that's
really fun class. It's probably one of the best classes of the last decade, if not more.
yeah, that is really good. Huh.
It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be really fun to see all those Kobe tributes too,
Yeah.
because I think they're gonna really do something special for him in the Hall of Fame. All
Oh,
right,
for
let's get
sure.
through some of these other topics. Tua underwent a medical recheck on his hip. Basically, he's getting rechecked pretty often, amazingly, because we're
Hmm.
getting reports on this virtually every day. The medical looks great. His hip looks great. I think he's at 100%, if not as close to 100% as possible. But even
Yeah.
with that, a lot of scouts, including a lot of reporters, including Matt Miller, have said that Tua's falling down the board more and more and more, and teams are liking Herbert. I think that's partially because they can't really get a great read on his medical report. Is there a chance that he drops down maybe top 15?
I don't. I don't think that much. I mean, I don't know, because this is his. I think this is his fourth medical check on his hip,
Probably. He's had a couple this week.
and they've all come out good. So I mean, I think teams that need quarterbacks, like Miami or maybe LA Chargers,
Yeah.
whatever, all the ones that we've been talking about. They're gonna. If I were an owner or a GM and I needed somebody, I'd look at him and it's like, injuries like this are gonna happen. He's recovered. He's doing fine. I think you got to take a chance on him. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
to me, he's such a unique talent for an SEC quarterback, who, because I mean, we've talked about it before, but no Alabama quarterback ever looks like a pro, and he does.
Right.
And, especially playing in the SEC, the toughest conference, it's like, I think this is, I think he's the best quarterback in this draft class,
No,
personally.
no question. And
Yeah.
but I don't. I think based on the situation we are in, I wouldn't be surprised to see him fall at the top 10
Yeah.
because so I think it's interesting though when you're looking at what we talked about with Tua throughout this whole process. One, I think we thought, okay, he'll probably not start next year. Now we're at a point where I think 95% sure he's going to start week 1, maybe depending on his situation.
Which I don't think he should.
I'm not. If he is 100%, maybe wait till mid-season, like kind of like a Dwayne Haskins deal.
Yeah.
But if you feel comfortable and he understands the playbook, I don't see a reason why you wouldn't just play him week 1 if your medical staff, the entire team, the coaching
It's
staff
comfortable.
is comfortable. And if
I mean,
that's
it
the case,
also.
go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, it also depends on where he ends up.
Yeah, very much so.
Because, if he. I mean, this probably won't happen, but let's just say he gets drafted by the Bengals. AFC North is a tough division. They got. I mean, you got Baltimore, best defense in the NFL, probably. Let's just be honest. And then you got the Steelers, who have
Top
an
5
incredible,
defense there too. I
yeah,
think they were probably
incredible
second
front
or third
seven.
best last year.
And Cleveland too has a really good defensive line
Yeah.
that tends to go under the radar. So I mean, it's a really tough division. He's going to get tossed around, So it's like I would be worried about that. But if he's going to like, Miami, for instance, the AFC East is a bit more not chill, but like it's not
Yeah.
so it's not so competitive. You know what I mean?
Well,
Or
I
not
guess so, but
competitive,
I
but
mean, even that, you look at the Jets and what they're doing defensively. You look
well,
at,
yeah,
I mean, honestly, by all accounts, the New England defense is still probably going to be one of the best in the NFL, even without Tom Brady, because that
yeah,
doesn't affect them at all, basically. Uh,
right,
but probably they're going to be on the field a lot more, depending on who will be their quarterback. But who knows? Because they
yeah,
got so many turnovers last year, and they were so good last year. Who knows? I think it could help whoever starts there at quarterback. But
yeah.
I think we'll get to that more at a later date because we're not sure who it will be. Stidham, Brian Hoyer, we're really not sure. But I mean,
I think they really like Stidham,
yeah,
from what I've heard.
yeah, for sure. But
But
I don't know.
anyways,
I mean, it depends, I think, on the quarterback situation of the team. If you look at
yeah,
the Chargers are committed to Tyrod Taylor at this moment, but that could change in 4 weeks if they get a guy like Tua maybe and they feel comfortable in him.
right. Or
New
Herbert or
England,
Jordan Love or whatever.
yeah, New England, same thing. I mean, it really depends. But in Carolina now, I think they're pretty comfortable with Bridgewater, but you know,
Yeah,
I will see. I think the quarterbacks and how they lay out in this draft is going to be one of the more interesting things.
yeah. I mean, I just really hope that we have an NFL season this year.
Yeah, yeah,
Because there's just so much crazy stuff happening, and I'm
yeah.
I'm just really,
As we talked about before we started the show, I think we really have to go day by day with it, really,
yeah.
because a
I'm
lot can
hopeful.
change in 3 months.
Yeah, I'm hopeful.
Yeah,
It's yeah,
we're all hoping at this point. Um, Speaking of sort of the NFL draft and what is going on with that, the Saints are setting up their draft headquarters in a brewery. So in the owner's brewery, they're setting up sort of their draft headquarters, of course, doing CDC measures and all that. If you're a GM, if you're a head coach or a GM in the NFL right now, faced with this situation, how do you approach the draft? How do you approach scouting? How do you approach these virtual meetings that we know Jordan Love's had, I think, like 3 virtual meetings with teams? How do you, as a GM, coach, scouting department, staff, approach this situation?
I mean, just like anyone else is doing, with with their virtual work and meetings and whatnot, just going on Zoom or whatever, and meeting with prospects that way. In terms of scouting, I guess just looking at old tapes of guys, and I mean they have to do something, because they can't just sit there and go, oh well, I guess we're just not going to get any new players. That
Yeah.
doesn't work out. So
One of the biggest things that this affects more, because we know, like, okay, there's a lot of talent in the first, let's say, first two, maybe three rounds. We
yeah,
kind of get a grip in terms of, what teams are potentially looking at. Obviously, the board will probably look a lot different than it would if we had pro days, more
right,
physicals,
yeah, of course,
individual workouts. The draft is going to look a lot different, obviously, because of that. Not just because it's basically virtual, but because of how teams are dealing with stuff. But the pro days, I think, are a massive miss, and I'm gonna
yeah,
be huge problem for a lot of these scouting departments, because when you look at 5, 6, and 7, finding those gems takes these scouts going to places like Ball State or some maybe even D2 or D3 schools who have pro days or something. I don't think that they do, but you get what I'm saying. Some of these
right,
smaller schools that no one really watches, that no one really hypes up these prospects, and then these guys come into a perfect situation in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round with the team.
and they end up being stars.
They end up being stars or even just really good starters. You
Yeah,
don't have that ability in this situation with basically almost no pro days. I mean, we had a few of them at the bigger schools, but with basically no pro
yeah,
days, how are you going to figure out how a guy is going to, I mean, you can with tape, but how much tape can you really watch on all these prospects?
right. Yeah, I mean it's a lot easier to just go there and see them and get to talk to them than it is to just sit there and sift through hours and hours and hours and hours of tape on just to find something for one person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's tough. But I mean it's there's nothing they can do about it right now. So yeah. But anyways,
I just find the whole process so interesting, and I think it's going to be fun to see how it really shapes up. Because I think it's just such a unique situation. Obviously, it's a really bad situation, but at the same time, with the
right.
draft specifically, it's such a unique situation. I think it's going to be fun for everybody because we finally have something to watch in the afternoon, something we can talk about for a few days, and
Yeah.
really get to sift through.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Bengals as well, they are potentially interested in trading the number one pick. Of course, we've had this every year, basically. Teams
Yeah.
just trying to figure out what the market is. If you're the Bengals, are you really sure that there are other teams out there who look at Burrow as their number one guy, even in, let's say, the top 3 or 4? And can't
Other other than Miami, probably not.
So wouldn't it make more sense for the Bengals to maybe trade down like a couple of spots if they can get some value out of it? Like, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, yeah. But then who would they get, or what would they do? Would they get Tua or someone else, like
Yeah.
different position
Well,
entirely?
I mean, it depends because I mean, I mean, there's so much wide receiver talent. You got good defensive line talent, good O line talent in this draft.
Yeah.
There's going to be teams that might want to jump to number one to take who we think probably is the best prospect. And let's be realistic here with Chase Young. Chase Young is the clear best prospect in this class. I think no one's doubting that at this point. So if you're a team that's really looking at Chase Young and thinking, okay, we want Chase Young, we are not looking for a quarterback. We know the Bengals are looking at Joe Burrow very heavily. Let's give them 2 seconds and let's move up to one and take the guy we know can be a transcendent talent and the best prospect in this class.
But do you really think that a ton of teams think that Chase Young is actually the best?
Yeah, I do. I think that's been the case the whole draft process.
Because I agree.
I
But
think it's been the case the whole draft process. He's the clear best guy in this class. And so if that's the case, if that's the case and you really think he can be the guy for you and you know what's going on with the Bengals in terms of how they feel about Burrow, if that is the case, then I don't think there's a question.
because I mean, I don't like personally. I don't think. I mean, we've talked about this before, but I don't think Burrow is that amazing.
Yeah, no,
I
me
mean,
neither.
I think he'll be like a middle of the road guy in the NFL. You know what I mean? But he, I don't think it would be wise to take him as the number one overall pick when you have other options that could be better. Um,
Okay,
I
so
don't
let's
know.
look at this order. I just pulled it up. So you got the Bengals at 1, the Redskins at 2. I mean,
Hmm.
if you're the Redskins and you feel like you feel like you're gonna get Chase Young at 2, then fine. The Lions, I think, are more likely to trade down. The Giants, I think, are probably looking at Isaiah Simmons, who's, by the way, a really, really dynamic prospect, a guy who can play safety, play linebacker, one of the most unique skill sets for a prospect we've seen in the last couple of years. Uh,
Yeah,
he's really high up there. But I think they're pretty high on him. Maybe if you're the Chargers, maybe if you're the Panthers, maybe even if you're the Cardinals, you look at a guy like Chase Young and say, maybe we'll trade up. Because
yeah.
even in these, I mean, I really think that the Redskins looking at a quarterback is a little bit of a farce at this point.
I don't think so. I mean, they got
I
what,
really
three
don't think.
guys in there? Or no? Yeah.
I don't think
Anyways,
they need to just be like, oh, we're gonna do the Cardinals thing and get rid of Haskins. Even though Haskins
right.
might not be perfect, they can still develop him. Do you agree with that?
Well, I mean, I think so. It's he wasn't amazing last year, but like I mean, I get it because he was thrown into a terrible situation, and he's pretty inexperienced anyways. So I mean, I get it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But um, yeah, I mean, because right now they have Haskins, Kyle Allen, and
That's right. They
then
got Kyle on, and then you have Alex Smith there, who's, by the way, recovering quite well. Even though it
yeah.
might be unlikely that he's ever going to play again,
So
he could
isn't
still.
there another guy there too? Or am I going crazy?
No, I think because Keenum's gone. Keenum's a free agent.
That's right.
Um, yes, I mean, if you look at the board here, depending on what you're thinking about Washington, I think the Lions are probably a trade down candidate because I don't know how they feel about Okuda now without having Darius Slay.
Right.
Um, if you're the I think if you're the Chargers, I think if you're the Panthers, I think if you're the Cardinals, even, I think more so the Cardinals, considering their situation with Hopkins, with
Hmm.
with Murray, and
Chase Young would be great for the Cardinals.
I also will say this with the Cardinals as well. Yes, they need O-line help, but if you are having the ability to get Chase Young for 2 seconds, I don't think there's a question you do it.
Oh, absolutely. Because I mean, there, you can find, you can find good O linemen all
There's
throughout the
probably
draft.
going to be some good O-linemen that follow the second round, considering how good. I mean, the first 4 or 5
Right.
are really good, so I think there is a little bit of a drop off. But as you said, if you have the right O-line system, you can pick a guy pretty late and figure it out potentially.
Yeah.
But again, if you have Chase Young, I think you wouldn't mind not worrying about the O line for a bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Plus, I mean, Kyler's. I mean, he's so mobile, and I mean, it obviously helps to have a good O line, but it's not like he absolutely needs one. You know what I mean? Um. So, anyways.
this O lineman class is going to be really fun because I really
Hmm.
think that teams, especially that are interested in O linemen and have them high up on the board, they could be everywhere. I mean, some
Yeah.
guys could say Thomas, some guys could say Wills. at number one. Those are just two examples, but there's so much good talent at the line, especially at the top, really mostly at the top, in fairness, that they could go all over the place, but there's not, if no matter who you pick, you get a really good talent. Like, it's really rare to have so many good alignment at the top in this juncture and this era where we're so worried about linemen and so many teams need offensive line. To have
Right.
a class like this at the top in the first, maybe early second round, it's really rare and really exciting for a lot of these teams, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so let's go forward here with the Patriots. So looking ahead with New England, we obviously are thinking about their quarterback position, but they are not expected to trade Julian Edelman. I don't understand why they wouldn't want to. How good do you think Edelman is really going to be in this system with the new quarterback?
I mean, I think for them, it's just kind of a matter of trust. Because, they've had Edelman for a while, obviously. And I think they want, I mean, he is still really good, but I think because after with Brady leaving, it's kind of a culture shock to them. And I think this is just kind of like, it's like a safety thing almost, you know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, well, we still know that Edelman is good. And, I think that he'll adapt to their new system, especially if Stidham is starting, because Edelman has spoken highly of him from what I remember. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about that. Although I would think that he would want out of there, just because he and Brady they're brothers basically. So, there was some chatter that he'd be trying to go to Tampa, which honestly wouldn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they had him as like their slot guy
Yeah.
with Evans and Godwin as their
Oh
deep
my God.
threats, that would be crazy.
It would be insane.
Yeah,
But he's also been
but
linked to Detroit, right? Because you have that connection with Matt Patricia.
yeah,
Miami with Flores, right? Again, connections.
right,
Um, I don't think he'll be very productive. I think if you need him in a situation with a really nice, I guess, franchise quarterback. I think even guys like Stafford would work well with him because
right.
of the veteran leadership that he brings, right? And just like, if he's with a young guy, I think his production goes down. I don't think he's the same player.
Well, and I mean, because at New England, they want him as like their number one deep threat, but that's just not what he is. You know what I
But he's
mean?
never been that though.
That exactly. So I just I don't know.
I just think if you look at it from a production standpoint, he needs to go somewhere where there's a veteran guy who has experience in the NFL, for, I don't know, 6+ years maybe, and just someone who is established, I think makes a lot of sense for him.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be
Um,
interesting to see what happens with that.
oh, for sure, because if he doesn't get traded now in the offseason, there's a chance he could be in rumors at the trade deadline, especially if the Patriots have, let's say, 3 wins by
Yeah,
that point. There's no question teams are going to come calling. And that might be another thing that they're thinking about is, okay, if we don't trade him now, if we don't trade him in the draft, in the trade deadline, his price could go pretty, pretty high. He could
right.
have some good market value at that point because teams are going to be like, okay, we know what he can bring. And maybe he might not even be worth, let's say, a third. He might even be worth a second. And that value difference is huge, especially for the Patriots who are so focused on getting draft picks. They have
Yeah,
12 draft picks. They have 12 draft picks in this draft, and he had 12 draft picks in last year's draft as well. So they're really committed to having some young talent in there. One more pick, especially in the second round, wouldn't hurt for them at all.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going back to the Texans here as well. Laramie Tunsil wants to become the league's highest paid offensive lineman. The Texans, I'm not sure how they feel about paying anybody, even though, let's be honest, they traded for Tunsil and they gave up a lot of value.
Yeah.
I don't know the Texans. I don't know what the Texans are doing, even from their cap standpoint, and who do they want to sign and who do they not. Even though the expectation is that Tunsil will for sure be re-signed, I don't know how I feel about him becoming the highest paid lineman because I don't know if the Texans are going to be willing to pay that much.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess I understand the thought process from his point of view, but it's like, I mean, does that?
I mean, I'm not
Is
saying
it?
he's not worth it, right? I think the O-line
Yeah.
market's been so. I mean, some guys who are B minus guys, let's say, are getting highest paid lineman contracts. So I'm not
Hmm.
saying that he's not worth that money. I'm saying I think I'm so confused by the Texans because of this DeAndre Hopkins deal and what they've done for the last year under Bill O'Brien being the GM and the head coach that I just don't know what to make of it, even if they sign it tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the thing that makes this wonky is the DeAndre Hopkins trade. You
But
know?
even last year, going back to last year and all the moves that they made last year, getting Tunsil, getting a guy like Kenny Stills, who didn't make nearly enough of an impact because he was like their fourth or fifth guy, even though we know he can be a slot guy in this league and be really effective. He showed
Yeah.
that in the past few years, other than last year, of course, or excuse me, in Miami, I should say, those past few years before he was traded to the Texans. But again, it's like, even from that point, last offseason, you were like, okay, I'm not sure exactly what they're doing here. So this,
Yeah.
from at least from a cap standpoint and from a player management standpoint, is just bizarrely confusing.
Well, I think the Texans are just organizationally terrible as is, to be honest.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
unfortunately been the case even for a little while. And I think, as I mentioned before, that frustrates me in terms of Deshaun Watson because when you have such a unique talent and when you have such a unique
Yeah.
talent like that, you're eventually going to have to pay him big money. And so you got to be like, okay, it's Super Bowl or bust now, because we
Uh-huh.
got our guy. And they just haven't done that.
Yeah. One, I was gonna say that about Deshaun because it's like, I mean, like you said, he is such a talented player. I mean, I think he's at this point probably one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL
Top
going
5 or
forward.
top 10, whatever argument you want to make,
Yeah.
he's one of the best in the league. He's one of the most dynamic in the league. I mean, we saw it in that Bills game, prime example.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's like, when you look at it that way, it's like, why would you waste this talent? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, it's unfortunate, but
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm curious as to if they have any kind of roadmap for the future or if
Yeah,
they're just
I'm
kind of
really interested to
winging
see
it.
what the long-term plan is for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the most interesting trends in this entire free agency period has been that contracts have been voided a lot more often. So Eli Apple, he was going to go to the Raiders. They were unable to finalize the agreement. I believe Michael Brockers was supposed to go to the Ravens. They couldn't make that deal work. He's now with the Rams or back with the Rams. That's been really interesting, of course, with this whole situation with physicals, with this whole virtual thing. But the fact that they can't get deals done shows why this free agency period is so difficult. I mean, it's only been for a few guys in the top end.
Hmm.
A few like name guys that we know in Apple and Brockers, but still, it shows how difficult it is for teams to even finalize a deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, especially right now because of how uncertain things are, and it's just because there's a lot that's just kind of ambiguous and just hanging in the air. Like, okay, well, what's going to happen now? So it's yeah, I don't know. It is strange though. Um,
I
I
mean,
mean, I don't. Yeah,
you're seeing all these guys like getting signed virtually every day, and then like you have, I mean, it's still an anomaly, right? It's not happening that often, but when
yeah,
it happens, I mean, it happens, I would imagine, every free agency, but
hmm
it hasn't happened in the way of which that we're like, oh, this is something that's kind of commonplace, even if it's just two or three. It does sort of strangely feel like it's happening more often, even though it might not be in the grand scheme of things, but it still feels strange.
yeah. I mean, it's a strange time, anyways.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm not sure even if like I think Brady signed his deal. Yeah, he did. I'm not
yeah.
sure how many of these guys actually have put pen to paper and signed their deals at this moment anyway. So that's another piece of
I
this.
think a lot have.
I think a lot have, whether it's virtually or whether it's in person. I think Brady's
Right.
in person because I think he is in Tampa at this moment. But yeah,
Yeah, he posted pictures of it online.
yeah. Okay, so this one, you know, so we talk about and I mean this one because this one's probably the weirdest story of the week in the NFL. The so the Cowboys over the last 5 to 6 years of Jerry Jones
hmm
have made some of the most interesting decisions, not only from a free agency perspective, but from a draft perspective.
Yes.
You look at guys like Randy Gregory, who haven't really, obviously, a lot of it is substance and all this other stuff, right? I'm talking about all these bad stuff that happens in the NFL where guys need to get reinstated and all these pieces.
Right.
But if you look historically, especially in the last 5 6 years, you have Randy Gregory. You have, I think there was an offensive lineman who's still on a team who was drafted late, and I believe the second round. I don't know why the name's evading me, but because of some draft issue.
Yeah, I know who you're talking
Um,
about.
we forgot the guy's name.
Why am
Uh,
I blanking on it too? Anyways.
also, Greg Hardy, who is now part of the UFC, and that whole right. Um,
Yeah.
but then now we get to 2019, 2020, and now here's another situation with Aldon Smith and them deciding to sign, was it 1 year, $2 million deal for a guy like Aldon Smith. But no team was even considering touching Aldon Smith, considering the plethora of situations from the DUI to the airport incident. I mean, there's so many incidents on and on with him. No team
Yeah.
was even planning on touching him. Not even saying that or not even suggesting as well that he's 30 years old. What impact can he really make at this moment? He hasn't been in the league since what, 2015. It
Yeah,
I
I don't
don't
know.
know why this is so commonplace with Jerry Jones and this organization because, to be honest, I don't think any of the other 32 teams went, yeah, let's go get Aldon Smith.
I mean, it's just so random. Like I mean, like you said, he hasn't played in 5 years, so he's not just gonna come out and. I mean, I doubt he's still in amazing shape. Maybe he is. I don't know. But I mean, he's not going to be nearly as effective as he once was or could have been. Not to mention, he has all this, off-field baggage that he's carrying with him. I mean, it's like I don't know what I just don't understand what they're doing with this. To be quite honest with you.
It shows to me just a lot of the weird mismanagement that comes with this group, really, because
Yeah.
if you're going to be honest, this is something that has reoccurred for a long time. This is not an isolated thing. And I get the whole point of, yes, the NFL with the new CBA are going to make certain changes for punishment, but it's not like it's just been, other stuff that the CBA fixed, whether it's marijuana or whatever. This guy still has DUIs and other arrests. This is not something that's just like,
Domestic abuse.
yeah, it's a lot of things. And again, I just wonder as to why this is something that's been a recurring theme, because I don't think a lot of people have talked about it when it comes to this Alden Smith contract. I might be wrong, but the fact of the
Yeah.
matter is this has happened consistently in this organization, where they take guys that I'm not sure are even ready to take a snap in the NFL.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think he is at this point. 5 years away from the game. Man, good luck, you know.
Uh,
But
all right, so let's move on to some NBA stuff and some actual interesting UFC stuff as well. Uh, so the Warriors are the most interesting team when we're looking at the NBA draft, right?
yeah.
I think very simply they are. And it's weird talking about the draft. What's today's date? April 3rd. It is strange talking about the draft on the weekend
Yeah.
when we would probably be having the Final Four, if not the national championship. Even
hmm
with that said, we are here and we are talking about the NBA draft. At this point with the Warriors, considering this whole draft class, whether it's Anthony Edwards, Obi Toppin, LaMelo Ball, whoever, this draft class is not very good. In top 5, top 10, it is not very good at all.
Yeah.
And March Madness also, I I don't know how I feel about that, because it's mostly owners going like, oh, I watched this guy in March Madness, let's draft him, whatever, right? So we don't
Yeah,
have
for
that.
real.
That's fine, I guess. I think a lot of GMs probably would prefer it anyway. But if you look at this class, you look at what the Warriors should be doing, maybe looking at a guy like James Wiseman, I think still to me is the best player in this class. But even then, this draft is not very good, as I said. If you're a team like the Warriors, I think at this point you probably need to consider, especially if you have the number 1 pick, trading out and getting another asset.
Yeah. Because, man, I don't know. I mean, Edwards is good, but I don't know how much he would benefit the Warriors, let's be honest.
I mean, I think Wiseman would make the most sense if you look at their lineup, right? If you look at what they would be doing when you're looking at Curry, Clay,
Yeah.
um, Draymond, and Wiseman, and obviously, one more. But and obviously, oh, I forgot about Wiggins. So you have Curry, Clay, Wiggs, Green, and Wiseman. That would make the most sense. If you're drafting Edwards, you're just drafting a role player. You're not
Yeah.
drafting a starter. And it's just I think if you are not sure about Wiseman because he hasn't played, for what a half a year or whatever, if you're not sure about that, if you're the Warriors, and by some luck of the draw, you have the number 1 pick. Obviously, we know with the whole 14% thing,
Yeah.
a team that's in the pool and has the odds for the 7th pick can get the number 1 pick easily. But if you, by some stretch of the imagination, have the number 1 pick, you, I think, are more likely to consider trading out if you are not entirely interested in Wiseman. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, do you think that they would do that realistically, though?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think they're just so up and down, right? Reports of what they might do. I mean, you're in such a rare position with the Warriors because
Yeah.
you are not bad. You are not bad because of, oh, you have bad players. You are bad because of circumstance. You are
Yeah.
bad because you had 2 of your top players get
Injured.
hurt in freak accidents. So you're in a very interesting position where you know that next year you can contend.
Mm-hmm.
other than guys like that will be in this lottery, like let's say Cleveland or whoever, let's just put them out there. There are many other examples.
Yeah.
Potentially Washington. I think Washington's pretty high up there, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Charlotte, whatever. You are in a weird position in a really great position that you have a top pick, and you know that next year you are definitely right in the playoff mix, no question.
Yeah. I mean, I think, if they wanted to benefit themselves best, the Warriors, in my opinion, should go with the center.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is
Which
what it is, I guess.
which would easily be Wiseman, but I'm
Yeah.
wondering exactly what they would trade for, because I think
Right.
you're like, okay, you need a star. If you have the number one pick, you can easily get a star. But what's the cap look like for that? Draymond is certainly, unfortunately, overpaid for his value. I mean, I think he only averaged 8.5 points this year. But,
Yeah.
it's Draymond, right? He's been there for a long time, so I understand that piece. But I don't know. I think that is going to be the most interesting story in this NBA draft is if the Warriors get the number one pick, what are they looking at? Because it
Right.
changes so often. It changes. It's changed throughout the entire season because that's what they're looking forward to. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens there.
I mean, I still think they're going to make a comeback regardless next year,
Right. I think
but
everyone.
it's just a matter of what they do with that first pick,
Yeah.
wherever in the first round they get it.
Yeah.
So,
Um. So I want to talk some UFC because I think, and even for you, Shane, this is probably quite interesting.
yeah.
Considering that we are getting ready for UFC 249 in a couple of weeks, and Dana has been so hell bent on making sure that this card happens,
Mm-hmm.
even though I would make the argument that considering, especially for Khabib being in Russia at this moment with his family, as he should be, it it does not make sense to put this card on at all. But yet every week it seems like this card is going to happen, but we still don't know exactly who will fight who. We don't know if Ferguson. There's been rumors about McGregor. I don't believe that. I don't think McGregor is ready to get back in the octagon right now. I don't think he should. It just doesn't make any sense for me, even just to put the card on at this moment.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that really doesn't make sense at all. I mean, because everything is so up in the air right now. It's like, what, don't even, don't even mention it. Just once things ease and, restrictions start to lift and stuff, then start talking about it, but not,
Yeah.
doing this like hurry up and wait of like, oh, okay, it's going to happen, but not yet. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You know what I mean? It's
Well,
like,
it's about what does the card look like, and
well,
not
yeah,
only what does the card look like. Are We're in a situation now in the UFC where it's like this is it. This is the last card for a while. If
yeah,
we get this card now, we obviously had the Brazil card, and I think we were all lucky that we had the Brazil card. The first weekend, this thing kind of spiraled out of control. Obviously, with no fans, but it was still an excellent card. And now we're in a position where Dana wants to put on this card, but realistically, the UFC is in a unique position, and this is what makes obviously fighting such a great sport is that there is so many countries involved, right? It's not just America like in the
that's
NFL.
the thing.
It's a worldwide sport where you have guys like Khabib, up in Russia, or fighters, let's say in Brazil, of course, with that Brazil card just being out there.
Yep.
They're in a great situation, obviously, with that, as boxing is in many other combat sports. But in this situation, it has to be a drawback because you can't fly guys out. I don't think you can
Especially
fly
internationally.
McGregor out to some random location in the U.S. You
Yeah.
clearly can't fly Khabib out anywhere at this point from Russia. You just can't.
No.
So why would it make sense to put on this card in any capacity?
Yeah, because it seems like it's kind of impossible for that to even happen.
Yeah.
So
It seems more impossible by the day,
why
even though
why
Khabib has
advertise it?
said even though Khabib has said like, okay, give me the date, or I think we know like it's in a couple weeks, but like give me the place to
Hmm.
do it. But realistically, the Russian government, just looking at his spot and like where he's at right now, they're not going to let him out, and they shouldn't. Just for safety.
No.
It just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to actually, this is probably one of the best stories of the week. Um,
Yes.
the Michael Jordan documentary coming up. I believe it's April 19th. I believe it is, and it's running from like May 3rd to May 13th. I'm so excited for this documentary. I've been
Yeah.
waiting. They were originally going to do this, I think, June 3rd because of like NBA finals. Let's put this documentary during the finals. But now we get it earlier, which I think is a huge benefit for everybody. But I'm really excited to see the whole Michael Jordan Bulls era, especially the final days with, the title being called The Last Dance and sort of the final couple years of it. It's going to be really, really interesting and fun, especially for people like you and me who didn't get to experience the Michael Jordan era in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially that, because we're used to, like we're seeing kind of the LeBron era and, like the Warriors whole dynasty that they had, or maybe still have, who knows. And, that's fun. But then, you hear like my dad talking about Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and all these guys with the Bulls and how awesome it was to see that in the 90s. And it's like, oh, I wish I could have seen that in its prime, instead of just watching old tapes. So, yeah, that will be, it'll be cool because it'll feel like we're kind of experiencing it as a new thing for the first time. You know what I mean? For
Yeah.
guys like us.
Yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely. And that's what makes me so excited for this. And
yeah,
and not only we're gonna see some of the game footage, but just hearing Michael, guys like Pippen, and I'm sure we're gonna
yeah,
have some other major surprises in this for sure in terms of people who are gonna be, interviewed for this.
right.
That's gonna be just, I mean, just hearing it from the perspective of them as players, because we know everyone's perspective on Michael and that era and how cool it was, but from
Yeah,
the players, from the guys in the locker room, the guys who experienced it day in day out, that's the perspective that we are looking forward to, but also people who experienced that era are looking forward to as well.
right. Yeah, I mean, I mean, like you said, for, people who did experience that as it happened, it'll be like a trip down memory lane, some nostalgia, and that's always fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, for me as a LeBron guy too, just being like, I still think LeBron's the greatest of all time.
I do too.
Just to see what people thought, because like I respect people who are like, yeah, Jordan is number one. I respect it. Look, I never saw that era. I respect people who say that, but I'm just so excited to, as you said, feel what that era was like, because that might make me understand at a more deeper level, even though I do understand, but at a more deeper level, why people say Michael Jordan is the greatest to ever do it.
Yeah. I think a big reason, at least from what I've noticed, that people say that is just because he has, what is it, 6 rings?
Yeah, the 6 rings. And
But
I
I mean,
think
the
also the
thing is,
aura of it too. The aura
well,
of
yeah.
the like Mike thing. And I watched Space Jam like the first week of quarantine. That was also fun. But
Uh,
just like the aura of Michael Jordan is so unique. It's unlike anything in sports. It's unlike LeBron or even Brady. I think there's such a aura around him, such like that icon status around him, and that's partially
yeah,
the case of basketball. I mean, even look at Kobe. His
right.
aura, it's related to Michael in a lot of ways as well, considering their play styles, but it is just the icon of him, I think, that also helps his case.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and part of that too is just because of how, the popularity that he grew and
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've talked about this before, but I just kind of have an issue with people saying that a certain player is the best because they won the most. It's like, well,
I mean, I get it from the NBA standpoint because we are in this era in the NBA where it's all about the rings, right? And
yeah.
that's where you hear people even saying, I was listening to a Bill Simmons podcast. If you guys are looking for something to listen to other than our show, I would highly recommend the Book of Basketball 2.0. They're doing redrafts of these old NBA drafts. I think they start from 96 and then going up from there. But they had one sort of rewatchables as we have done based off their stuff as well. They did one on Charles Barkley and his son's days, and they played against the Sonics, right? But they were talking about Barkley and how Barkley's career is so, downgraded because he didn't win a title, even though he was such a dynamic player.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like Dan Marino in a
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Dan Marino's a really good comparison because, I mean, a lot of people think Dan is the greatest of all time at the quarterback position. Maybe not anymore with how Brady's been, but even when it was Montana, a lot of people went with Marino as well, just because of his style and his play as well.
Yeah.
And also, not to mention, I mean, LeBron is obviously an icon in his own way, and I think for both of us, that's why we say he's the greatest of all time. But I think Michael is such a different sort of aura, I think.
Well, because LeBron, to me, like he doesn't have a weakness.
Yeah.
You look at all the best players throughout the NBA, and there's always like at least one thing about them that's like, that's a little iffy. But LeBron, he does it all. You know what I mean? And he's won with the Heat, Cavs.
We'll see what happens with the Lakers.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's if you're gonna look at it that way,
But it's also those straight finals too. It's like those, what was it, 6, 7 straight finals, whatever it was.
Right.
That run of like, okay, like even looking at the Cavs, a lot of people remember those Cavs teams even when he was younger, 06, 07, right, 08, whatever it was. And then looking at those Cavs teams, 14, 15, 16, whatever, those Cavs teams, they said, oh, he just doesn't have much talent around him. And I think that part of it is a huge reason why I think a lot of people will say that, because it's like he didn't have that much talent around him. And even though the East was never that good throughout his career, when he played in the East, it's still like really unique and impressive considering what people remember about those teams.
Yeah. But anyways.
All right, so you put this in our chat this week, and I thought it was really interesting. I didn't do as much research on this, so this might be a little bit of a kind of, opinionated discussion, as we all kind of have, but this I think is more opinionated. I think we'd love to hear other people's thoughts on this, so when I post this on Facebook, I would love to hear other people's thoughts on this. You got this from Instagram, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so let me put this up here. This is one of the more interesting things. So we're looking at, you see that right on your screen?
Yes, sir.
So top 10 teams in the 2010s. We have the Patriots at 1, the Seahawks at 2, the Packers at 3, the Ravens at 4, the Broncos at 5, the Steelers at 6, the Saints at 7, Chiefs at 8, the Eagles at 9, and the 49ers at 10. I don't really know what to make of this list because I kind of agree with it a little bit, but I'm not sure. What is your feeling on this list?
Here's what I think. I don't think the Niners belong in this list.
Really?
Yeah.
Then who belongs at 10?
I would say maybe Atlanta.
Wait, Atlanta?
I mean, if you look at – the thing is, the 49ers have had – or even no.
Well, here's the thing with the Niners, though. The Niners are at 10. I think you can make the argument that they go up because 2012 Super Bowl appearance, 2019 Super Bowl appearance. This is counting last season. And that's part of why the Chiefs are at 8.
The thing is, though, half the seasons in the 2010s, the Niners were way under 500. I mean, they're over because I looked it up. Their overall record of the 2010s is like just barely over 500.
But with 2 Super Bowl appearances attached to that, if I remember correctly, right?
Yes, yeah,
And then Atlanta, that would be just one. And then
but
even
they had a much better overall
record-wise, I don't
record.
think they're that good.
What's that?
Even overall record-wise, I'm not sure how they were, but I don't think they were that good.
They were better than the Niners
By how much?
by quite a bit, actually. Let me look at. Let me check it. So let's see. The best record overall was the Patriots, and it's not even close.
Yeah, that's
They
fair.
have
The Patriots that won, we're not going to argue.
they have 20 wins over the next team,
Oh my
which is
God.
insane. Let's see. Okay, so yeah,
Wow.
Atlanta's overall record over the 10 seasons was 570
Mm-hmm.
or 570 win percentage. And then the Niners, and that was 12th out of all 32 teams.
Mm-hmm.
And the
But
Niners were, where are they? Are they really down this far? Oh my gosh.
well, I don't think you can take them off this list
They're 20.
because I don't think you can take them off this list because I think that the 2 Super Bowls put them on this list. The Eagles, what so for the Eagles, that would be what I think it's like. Is it 1 Super Bowl for the Eagles?
Uh, yes. Yes.
And then the Chiefs would be one. The Saints is one. The Steelers is a few.
The
Broncos,
Steelers,
yeah, the Steelers are right. So
they only have one Super Bowl appearance in the 2010s.
that would be the one that we watched, correct? That would be. Oh, that doesn't even
No,
count because that was
Green
oh
Bay.
09.
Green
Oh,
Bay.
that would be the Green Bay game. Okay.
Yeah.
Broncos have what, two?
2 appearances, yeah, 1 win.
Ravens have
1 appearance, 1 win.
one appearance. Is it 2 appearances or one? One?
No, just 1, I think.
One. Packers. Packers
1
have
win, 1 appearance.
1 win, 1 appearance. Seahawks have 1 win, two, and the Patriots have. We're not even gonna touch them.
They
They're
have 3 wins and 5 appearances.
something like that. No, it
4.
doesn't. To be fair, the Patriots are not even in this discussion because they're clearly at one.
Yeah.
The
No, I
rest
think
you can shuffle. I really think that's why I'm not sure because I'm fine with this ranking to a degree. And then
yeah.
but I don't know. You can really make an argument if you just want to look at the teams at 2 through 10, you could really shuffle it if you wanted to.
I think the Seahawks are a clear number 2 to me. Just because they are the one team that has been so consistently in the playoffs,
I
except for minus 1 year.
I think there's also something to be said for if you look at the idea of what dynasty in the 2010s was as close to the Patriots as possible, it would be the Seahawks, probably. If I were
Yeah,
honest.
yeah,
Because I don't think you call the Seahawks those teams necessarily a dynasty. You may, but if you're talking
right.
about who's the closest to the Patriots out of teams even on this list, I think Seattle is definitely that team.
Now you know which team. So Patriots had the best overall record at 113-31.
My God. Like, let's skip the Patriots because we know they're at one. We're not even gonna legitimately. We know.
Now, okay, so this list that I'm looking at right here, this is the only one I could find with every single team. This
Can
doesn't
you put that on
include
the chat for me?
2019.
Can you put that in the chat for me so we can pull it up
Yeah.
on?
So it doesn't include 2019, which is a bummer, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
We know everybody's records from 2019. Do you want me to put it on the doc?
Yeah, you can just put like the link on there.
Boom, there it is.
Okay. Let me pull
So
it up.
the second,
This
the
is from
second,
Patriots.com. That's funny.
the
That's
second.
actually funny. I'm not gonna lie. That's funny because they're clearly at number one, so they're the
I
team
didn't notice
putting it
that.
up here. Okay, so Pittsburgh at 2, and this is just looking at regular season record. We
Just regular season.
looked at the Super Bowl thing. Pittsburgh at 2. Yeah, so if you want to look at, I'll put this list over here. Then I think you probably put the Steelers above the Packers, probably, and then
They didn't win anything though.
yeah, I
Here's the thing though,
that's
because
right.
this is just up to 2018. So if you include last year, Green Bay and Pittsburgh are tied.
Yeah. This is so tough for me. I feel like I'm being really dumb with this. So again, this is why I'm asking for you all to give your thoughts on this because this is interesting.
And I
So
think four
Seattle's at
is
4, New Orleans at 5. New Orleans is so interesting to me, right? Because
yeah,
it's like they had stretches like the whole Sean Payton suspension thing that year was basically a wash. And then I guess I guess between those years, like 10 to maybe 12 or 13.
yeah,
So basically, at the beginning of the decade was really strange.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
as
That's for
they
sure.
finished the decade, it was it was really good. Where over the last, let's say, 3 years, the last 3 years of the decade, it was they're so close but yet so far, right? That's been the story of New Orleans the last few years.
Right.
And that, to a degree, is the story of the last, I guess, half decade of them, I guess.
Yeah,
And then Baltimore is one of those where it's like, they're now headed into a different era now. But the Joe Flacco era was good, but not necessary. It was good, but it wasn't like
it changed.
spectacular.
That team changed drastically over the course of the decade.
Yeah,
So did San Francisco.
yeah. Chiefs, Denver. Denver is a fun one on this list, right?
Yeah,
Because Denver, like, yeah, and I mean, Denver is statistically, I think, all time one of the best regular season record teams, right? And
yeah,
they've always been like consistent. Obviously, the Steelers have always been that as well. The Packers have always been the Packers have always been that as well. Of course, the Patriots for the last decade. The Broncos are interesting because yes, record-wise, they're pretty amazing. The end of the decade after the Super Bowl was horrific because they couldn't figure out the quarterback. But even with Peyton, they still sort of figured it out to get to 2 Super Bowls and somewhat figured it out, even though Peyton ended up, the last year. I hope everyone still remembers this 20 years down the road. Peyton was terrible in that Super Bowl.
yeah. The defense won that game.
Yeah, I hope it seems like that will always be remembered, and I'm so thankful
Hmm.
for it because that would, you know, if 20 years down the road we have to tell people like, bro, the Broncos didn't win that Super Bowl because of Peyton, I don't want to have that argument. I want people to just know it, and I hope that is the case.
Yeah. Although I'm glad he got the second ring.
Oh, I think everyone is for sure. Atlanta, where is Atlanta on? Atlanta's not on this list. Yeah, so as
I
you
think
talk
they
about
should be
with
10.
Atlanta, so like Atlanta's weird, man, because I think the way we look at Atlanta from the decade, just looking at them just from a I guess physiological standpoint or whatever is the right word. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You'll always remember 28-3. Obviously, with the game being
Hmm.
won last week, the reality situation is even with the record and with that Super Bowl,
They underachieved.
they underachieved, and that Super Bowl showcases that for the entire decade,
Right.
especially considering the years after, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think you wouldn't put them on this list.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think the list is fine, personally. I don't know. Dallas not being in, yeah, Dallas had a pretty bad decade.
No.
Dallas had a really bad decade.
What about the
Cincinnati at
Giants?
12? Giants?
They did win the Super Bowl
That's a
in
fun one. They won
11.
two in this whole Patriots dynasty era, and they're basically the only team to really realistically, if you want, like they're the Brady killer team. You can look at that. Where are they record wise here, man? They're
I don't
quite
know.
low.
Are
They're
they? Oh
22.
yeah. Wow, interesting.
They are quite low. I would
Huh.
imagine that. Oh my God, Ben McAdoo is on this decade. Yeah,
Oh
that shows
jeez.
a lot. Um, let's see. For decade, winning 4 games. Yeah. So I mean, so yeah. Wait. So that would only be one because it's 2011. So maybe not because decade wise,
They've only won one this decade.
one and they've been just I don't really think that decade wise they were that impressive. Um,
Yeah.
so here's the thing about Cincinnati, right? Cincinnati is interesting because if they if they were better coached, right,
Mm-hmm.
throughout this time and had this record and kind of built their team better and won like a few playoff games, they would be pretty close in this list.
Yeah.
But the reality is they didn't win a playoff game and they just couldn't figure out the playoff woes virtually at all. I mean, let's not forget 2012, 2013, I believe that was the year. They started the season off 7-1. They
Mm-hmm.
had good regular seasons. They were a team that obviously could consistently make the playoffs
Well,
throughout
they
the
made.
course
I
of the
think
decade.
they won the division like 4 years in a row or something.
Yeah, but even then, even with that, because of the whole playoff thing,
Right.
they're not even close.
No. I mean, if they had won at least like 2 playoff games,
If they made an NFC title game, we'd be looking at them way differently.
they would they would maybe be number 10.
I don't know if I put them at number 10, but they would be at I think they easily be at 11.
Yeah, or yeah, that's fair.
Maybe but
Like
but
with
again,
Atlanta, kind of.
let's say they made an AFC title game. This is a much different way we look at the Bengals.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone realizes that.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts you have on some of these teams on this list that we haven't covered? Like, let's say the Eagles, for example.
Mm, I mean, I think the Super Bowl win helps them out for sure. Because other than that, I mean, would we really think of them that highly? I don't know.
Wait, so which year did Philly win the Super Bowl in this decade?
Which what?
Which year did they win the Super Bowl in this decade? Because
18.
that's right. What am I saying? Oh my God. So let me be honest, right? When I think of Philly winning a Super Bowl, or when I think of Philly Super Bowl, obviously
Uh-huh.
you think of the Nick Foles thing. But when I look at
Yeah.
it from the totality of the decade, I look at like the whole Terrell Owens thing, but that's not even probably in this decade. You know what I mean? There's just like a whole confusion with that. Yeah, no, so yeah, that would be one. But also, as you've talked about before, it's like one of the most amazing Super Bowl runs ever.
Yeah.
It's probably the most amazing one of the last decade, no doubt.
Oh, probably.
So they are probably definitely in this list because of that.
Yeah. Why am I thinking so hard about this? Oh my gosh.
No, I don't know, man. I would again. Anyone on our Facebook page, if you're listening to this on Mixcloud, comment down below and tell us what you think about this list.
Yes, please do.
listen this far into the pod because this is I don't know. Looking at it from the decade perspective, I don't know if we're really qualified for this. I guess at least I don't think I am. So I would love opinions on this for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So what recommendations do you have in terms of quarantine? What have you been doing to sort of pass the time?
Well, I've been practicing guitar a lot. That's fun.
Oh, how's that been going?
Good. I got out. Um, I found some old books with charts in them. There was one from Jack Johnson, which is nice. And there's another one with a bunch of Star Wars songs,
Oh
uh,
yeah. Did you
which
see
is fun.
Giannis learn the guitar?
No,
Oh, you search up that video. Giannis Antetokounmpo trying to learn the guitar is so funny.
I'll have to do that.
It's really good. Yeah,
Have you watched any of those Star Wars movies
no,
yet?
I have not yet, man. I haven't. So let me talk to you about this whole quarantine thing for me personally, since I didn't really share it last week on the podcast.
Okay.
I'll be completely honest with you. This
Mm-hmm.
is very normal. It's almost for me because I'm a person like I love hanging out with friends and stuff like that. I don't
Yeah.
get to do it very often because a lot of people are busy, which I completely understand, right? I get it.
Uh,
But for me, like other than football and like the show and like some stuff for school, right?
mm-hmm.
And like, other sports or what have you, but especially football season because Sundays all I'm doing is watching games all day. Other than that, I'm most of the time, not all the time, but mostly just like quite flexible with my time
Yeah.
in terms of that. I really am like someone who has the day kind of open because I don't schedule a lot of things, right? Unless
Mm-hmm.
I have class or football on Sunday or a game I really want to watch. So for me, it's like it's such a weird situation because like over summers, like I would spend a lot of time at home. I just would. So for me, what makes this weird is the situation. Because if we didn't have the situation over the summer, unfortunately, just because I'm not really doing a ton, this is kind of what I would be doing.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying? So it's
yeah.
not necessarily that like stuff that I would be doing at home, I'm still doing fine. The only drawback is that realistically I can't go to the mall or something like that.
Yeah.
So for me it's still pretty normal. Although I will say I have been trying to do different things. So like yeah, I'll play video games, I'll listen to podcasts, I'll do those things normally. But one thing I have been trying to do is learning how to code, or I did for like the first week or two. So coding is hard.
Oh, yeah.
People like it is difficult, and I've been learning JavaScript for about a week now. I kind of stopped for a little while because of like school and stuff,
Yeah.
but I've been learning it and I'm like, dude, this is like there's some math involved.
It's really tedious.
It's very tedious. I don't know what I was expecting going in because I knew it'd be hard. But as you said, like the tedious aspect of it is something I wasn't really expecting.
Yeah. uh, yeah, I've been told to try new things as well. Um, so I was thinking about that earlier today. I was like, well, what new things could I do? And I'm going to learn Italian.
Okay. So learning a language, right, is something that I
Yeah,
bet you a lot of people have been doing, other than like organizing their homes and stuff of that nature.
right.
Um, and of course cleaning and all that stuff. But learning a language, like I did Spanish for 2 years in high school, and
Uh-huh.
it was hard. Like
Yeah.
learning because you're so accustomed to like the English language that understanding like all of these other pieces to it are wildly difficult.
So
Has
that's
that been your experience?
yeah. Well, that's the thing because I took 3 years of Spanish in high school. Um, And so that, I mean, the thing about Spanish and Italian is that they're both Romance languages, and they come from Latin roots, and they're very similar in that way. So it because I started like a little bit this morning, and I noticed some of the words I could just kind of guess what they were
Yeah.
just based off of my knowledge of Spanish. And so, anyways, like in Spanish, bueno means good. In Italian, it's buono.
Hmm.
So I saw that and I was like, gee, I wonder what that means.
So
So
I think you can speak to this as well. Speaking of Italian and also Italy and all that stuff. Unfortunately, what they're going through is
yeah.
really bad as well. But so I was watching. I forgot what it's. I think. Okay, so one of the things that so I'm a weird person, very clearly a weird person, and this is part of what makes me a weird person. I'll watch rom-coms.
Same.
I know it's weird, but I'll watch rom-coms, and I think I was watching. I think it's called like Only You or something like that, and it's like they go to Italy, and I was
Hmm.
so interested, like culturally, because they
Yeah.
kind of showed some of that in terms of like the cultural aspects of
Hmm.
Italy, in terms of like, oh, like they're committed more to not work like in America where we're always working, but like love and spending time with other people and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think, have you been to Italy before? I believe you have, right?
Twice. Yeah.
Twice. And like, explain some of those like cultural differences, because I think it's one of those things that's really interesting in terms of America, looking at other countries and like those differences.
Right. Well, that's the thing that because Italy is my favorite. I love it, and people think that it's amazing because of the like the charm and just the aesthetic there. Which it absolutely is. It's gorgeous. It's phenomenal. But the thing that really makes me feel like that place is so special is that the people there, they make you feel like you're at home because they're so friendly, and all they want to do is just sit down and have a drink and talk. And that's what they do. They like every single night they go out to dinner with their family or with their friends or whatever. They finish because like here in America, I love it here, but we're done with work or school or whatever, then we just go home and that's that. And we
Yeah,
watch
we
TV or
have like
whatever.
that sort of workman society kind of thing.
Right.
That's different.
But in Italy, it's not like that. I mean, you're you get off work and then you go hang out with everyone in the neighborhood. And, it's like a party all night. So
Yeah.
um, it's just a really cool culture and way of living, and
Hmm.
the people just seem really happy, and um, yeah, it's very special for that reason. And
Hmm.
we were actually we were there this last summer, and we were in this town in Lake Como, and we got to be kind of friends with some of the locals there. And that town where we were is about a half hour from Bergamo, which is the epicenter of the Italian outbreak. So we've been thinking about them, hoping that they're safe.
Yeah. Everyone,
Um,
basically, prayers for really everyone affected by this, because it's been
yeah,
crazy. Um, I'll also talk about, for me. So I'm Romanian and Hungarian, and I went to
you're
Romania.
Hungarian?
Yeah, I am.
No way, same.
So I went to Romania like a couple, I think about 2-3 years ago now, and
Yeah.
so I think one of the biggest things, as you talked about with Italy, it's kind of the same thing in Romania in this sense. I think one of the things, I mean, this is not entirely the same, but I think one of the things that struck out to me, because I've been to Romania before, but as someone like, more mature, a little bit older,
You see it differently.
you see it differently, but this is the way I saw it differently. They don't have as much as like we do, right? In terms of, TV, whatever, like the stuff that we're normally accustomed to. but yet at the same time, there's this sort of sense of happiness that in America we don't necessarily have as much. And
Hmm.
I think there's so much talk, rightfully so, as I know, I think both you and I have dealt with this in the past. The sort of thing of like this whole anxiety, depression, all of
Yeah.
these general feelings. Then you go to places like Italy or even Romania. Obviously, they're much different in terms of countries, in terms of just way of life, but they I just think like you go there and you're like, okay, they're just happier here, it seems. They don't
Hmm.
have as much as we do, but at the same time, just the happiness that they feel is so interesting and unique.
Well, because they just live simple,
Yeah.
which I think is, I think how we were more designed to live as humans. You know what I mean?
Uh,
Um, but that's a whole nother discussion.
right. No, but
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway, especially if you go to Europe, is just like as you said, like the simplistic pieces of it. And then like coming
Hmm.
back and realizing like all the stuff that you have, all the people that you know, stuff like that, you start realizing like, okay, I can make a change personally of like, all right, let's try to get happier to a degree and just try to understand sort of their mindset and kind of bring it here to a
Yeah.
degree, even though it is very difficult.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they still have phones and computers and all that. But here it's like our priority is, if there's a bunch of people, we just go to our devices. But there, if there's a bunch of people, they talk to everyone, they want to be friends with everybody. You know what I mean?
I think this is
So,
one of the things for me, and I'm sure this is the case for you as well, but for me, one of the things that I've noticed over the last few years
yeah.
is like this whole thing of just like wanting to get to know people.
Hmm.
Like it's almost like a goal for me at this point where it's like, okay, I just kind of want to get to know people and understand what their lives are like and stuff like that because those
Yeah.
perspectives can give you so much maturity and so much of a different thought process of life because so many people go through so many different things and getting
Right.
to know people I think is just such a powerful piece to anyone's life really.
Hmm. Well, and to experience different cultures and whatnot too,
Yeah, for sure.
it's always good. Yeah. I just can't wait to, get back there whenever that might be.
Yeah,
Who knows with everything going on, but
yeah,
you know what? We'll be patient. We'll persevere.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
Um,
Prayers for everybody, man. It's a tough time and
yeah.
hopefully this brings as you said every pod that we've done in this format hopefully this brings all of you joy and just
Yep.
excited to talk about something different and I know we've kind of mentioned the situation that we're in a little bit more than we have the past few weeks um, but I mean it's the biggest thing happening right now of course it is but I think just giving people the option to have this entertainment I think it's really important and we're so happy
Yeah.
to provide it in this type of situation that we're in.
Yeah. Make a distraction.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Well, until next time, everybody.
All right. We will see you all next week. Stay safe, everybody. Praying for
Stay
all of you
healthy.
out there going through everything. Same with you and your family, Shane. Just
Thank you.
a lot of stuff going on. Again, hopefully this
Yeah.
was some great entertainment, and we will see you all next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. See ya.
Take care.